Hello, everybody. Happy June 3rd, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have the head coach of the football program of Foran. His name, Tom Drew. Tom, thanks so much for being able to come on today.
Chris, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. I've been watching I've watched a few of your shows, and I got two favorites: Mike Eagle, of course, who you just interviewed, and Eric Becker for another reason. I think that's probably the best Fu Manchu I've ever seen on a human being. So that was awesome to watch those two episodes and two former guys that I coached with. So you're doing a great job, man, and I know, speaking for all coaches in Connecticut, we certainly appreciate it.
I really do appreciate that, Coach, and it's great to be able to have guys from different parts of Connecticut, especially, as you mentioned, Mike Eagle and Eric Becker, two guys in the Pequot who are going to have pretty intriguing teams in Coggin-Shog and Haddam Killingworth.
Yeah, I mean, I've coached with both of them, and my philosophy and the way I see things today come from both of them, and they're both great coaches, and I know that they're going to put together two very good teams, and you're going to see some competitive battles there in the Pequot year in and year out with those two.
Now, Coach, before we get into your time with Foran, because you just completed your second year with the team, just tell me kind of about your journey and kind of what got you into coaching and then eventually led you to Foran.
Yeah, so I started coaching in 2007, and I started at Hand High School with Coach Philippone and Coach Becker, and Coach Eric Becker was the head freshman coach, and I coached underneath him. I did the O-line and D-line for him, and we did that for I believe it was 3 years together, and I learned a lot from him. Beck is a super enthusiastic, high energy coach, and he believes in the player first, and that they know that they can come to you with anything. And so I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from the hand program as well with Coach Philippone. It's one of the, I mean, if not the top program in the state, and you kind of saw how a top program was run, and it truly, it was a machine, and a machine built by Larry Ciotti and Steve Philippone. And the players who play there, they know their role, they know what they're supposed to do, and they do it better than anyone else. And so it was a great learning experience for me. And around my third year at Hand, I got a call from a guy who I didn't know, but a friend had given him my number, Mike Eagle, and Mike had just gotten the job at Morgan. And so I wasn't looking to go anywhere. I was very happy at Hand and learning a lot. And Mike had offered me a varsity spot coaching the O-line and D-line. And so we talked, and I went down to the school, and we what turned into like a 4-hour meeting of just sharing philosophies and ideas. And I really thought it was a great fit. And so I coached with Mike from Morgan to Guilford, and we made that transition to Guilford. I went with Mike, and I learned a lot about program building with Mike, because we took over Morgan, which had been down previous to that, and it was interesting to watch Mike build, from the ground up there, and turn Morgan into a playoff team. We went to the playoffs and lost to Woodland in the first round, but I mean, from where they were, we went 1-9 to 5-5, and then sure enough, a year later to 10-1. So it was a remarkable turnaround. He did a fantastic job, and like a sponge, I was just trying to soak it all up. Then we went to Guilford and for a couple of years, and Mike took some time, so I kind of ventured. I was teaching in Milford at the time, and so I connected with Eric Larka at Jonathan Law, and became his DC 3 years ago, and we made the playoffs. I think second time in Law history, maybe first, and lost to Killingly, who eventually won the state championship. So, and that was a great Killingly football team, unbelievable. And I was working at Foran, so I was working at Foran, coaching at Law, which is the big Thanksgiving Day rivalry. And Jeff Bavino had retired at Foran, coaching, and so it was a great opportunity for me to step in and kind of get my own program and put my own stamp on things. So here I am in my going into my third year at Foran.
Now, two things that really jumped out to me, Coach. One thing was that you were with Hand, because I know Coach Becker was with Hand for a number of years. And the same question I asked him is what I'm going to ask you. Being under that much talent, both from the coaching staff and the players, did you ever, think to yourself, or did you ever go into work and like pinch yourself, like, wow, I am basically around a college atmosphere because there's so much talent, there's so much experience around that if I'm not learning something every day, then I'm getting worse as a coach.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it really was more than the X's and O's. It was a belief that every single kid on that team had, and it was established and really at the youth level. But it went all the way up, and I played a hand in the late '90s and early 2000s, and it was a mindset that every single kid had that when they're on that field, they're working. And there wasn't, it didn't matter who you played on Friday nights. Our expectation is that we're going to win, and we're going to work um, and plan like that's the plan, like that's what's going to happen. And I'm a big believer in mindset. And to me, on that field, there was never a doubt. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and watching film, whoever we were playing, there was never a doubt that we were going to come out, compete, and come away with a win. I mean, that was just a mindset. And so to be around that as a head coach makes you strive for your kids to have that mindset. And I think it's a great mindset to go into life with. I think I tell our kids all the time, if you're going to do something, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're in finance, why not be the best at it? Why not strive to be the best at it and believe that you're the best at it? And so that's really what I took away at Hand. It was a remarkable thing.
And then even during your time at Morgan, you mentioned how you went 1-9, 5-5, and then you made the playoffs. It's kind of funny that you mentioned the records because your time at Foreign, first year, 1-9, second year, 5-5. You're kind of on that trajectory where playoffs are very what's the word I'm looking for? They are in the foreseeable future, I think, for Foreign. It's there.
Yeah, I think so too. And to me, it just goes back to that mindset of, um, believing that it should happen and believing that you're capable of doing it every single Friday night. And I think that's the mindset we're trying to instill with our kids at Foreign. I have a great staff. Um, John Reineke is a guy who I connected with in Guilford with Mike, and John is my defensive coordinator, and we share the same philosophy and same belief, and um, you know these are the traits we need to instill in our kids if we're going to be successful. And so this past year's team really started to buy in, and you're right. I mean, I think if we can keep this thing going and keep building this culture, playoffs for us, I mean, should be, I would love to get to it one day where it's just, hey, we're going to step on the field and we know the end result's going to be a win, and that's going to lead to the playoffs every year. I mean, that would be ideal. But certainly I'd be naive to think that that's going to happen overnight. And we're excited for the process of building and getting better.
You talk about the mindset and the culture and trying to kind of reshape that into kind of your own style, your own, coaching philosophy. What was the hardest thing your first year to kind of I don't know if it was maybe a certain scheme with the players, maybe it was just the fact of trying to change the culture of losing to trying to say, "Hey, there's talent. We're going to get there. Rome wasn't built in a day." What was the one thing, coach, in your first year with Foreign?
So before I got to Foreign, Jeff Bavino had coached at Foreign for 12 years prior to me, and he had seen a lot of success. He had some 7-3 teams, I believe an 8-2 team, and so to me, taking over the culture, it was there, but it was different because you're adding new blood to it. You're adding new coaches, and so really the toughest transition for us was having the kids really get to understand who we were, and us to understand who they were, and that in your first year, that's the toughest task, because it doesn't matter who was there before. It's different now, and Jeff did a fantastic job at Foreign. but like I said, it was different, and to me that was the toughest transition for both, and I think it really took um, a year for us to establish who we were and who they were, and you really saw it in Thanksgiving. We played a very tough law football team that finished year 7-3, and we battled. I mean, our kids, we lost the game, but our kids, they battled and really started to play the brand of football that I knew we were capable of playing. And so it was a great thing to see, and it kind of piggybacked into this past year where we started making strides, offensively and defensively. So it was big for us.
What were some of the takeaways that you had from your first year? Because I can tell you right now, just comparing the 2 years between 2018 and 2019, 2018, your team scored 20 plus points 3 times. You were 1-2 in that span, but you allowed 40 plus points twice. Going into 2019, you scored 20 plus points 8 times. You were 5-3, and you only allowed 40 plus points once. I think that is a remarkable improvement. Not so much the allowing 40 points per game, because I think that's something that just over time you'll get better at just because of attrition and getting the kids
Yeah.
up to speed on your scheme. But the fact that you went from scoring 20 plus points 3 to 8 in less than 12 months for, knowing that with high school sports, you're getting new players, you got kids transferring, kids coming in, leaving, etc., guys beating out other players. That's really good, coach.
Yeah, and for us, it starts with competition, and we came into this year preaching that, and no position was, not that any position was guaranteed, but we were gonna compete for everything that we got, and for us offensively, it started with our quarterback Andrew Janik, who was a senior this past year. He's going to Stonehill this year, um, and it was a second year in the system that we were running. He was more comfortable with it. He was starting to understand what the defenses were doing. And it got to the point offensively where he would come off the field and he would be able to tell me, Coach, they're doing this is going to be open, or they're doing that, let's run this. 2 years ago, the year we went 1-9, he wasn't ready for that mentally yet. He just, number one, he didn't have the whole scheme down pat. And so it was a big jump for him year one to year two. And so, as the quarterback goes, the team goes. And so, it made a huge difference. And of course, we had some strong leaders this year, and Will Phelan, who was one of our top receivers. And, those guys, when the leaders buy into the culture that you're trying, as a coach, you're trying to sell, the rest of it kind of trickles down, and the rest of the team started buying in. And it was, somebody asked me the other day, what, in all the years you've been coaching, what's the most fun you've ever had? And I gotta say, to me, this year was by far the most fun I've had as a football coach, just because um, they were really an extension of me, on the field, in terms of how I want my team to prepare and how I want them. To me, football's fun. And when you're having fun, you have a little bit of swagger to you. And we played with swagger. We played tough, but we had fun. And I think the kids would echo that as well. And so, to me, when you're having fun, you're going to be successful.
What's the word that the kids say nowadays? You need to have swag. I think that's
Yeah.
something that, if you want to win games, I mean, look, you talk about you talk about your time at Morgan. When you win, swag comes with it. But when you
Yeah.
lose, you can't really do much because there's not really anything to gloat about.
Right. Right. And listen, everyone loves to win. Winning is great, but to me, you know, as fun as last year was, um, the 1-9 season, I think, was laid the foundation for where we're going as a program. And I told those seniors that, when they left, those kids battled every single day, and they were the first group that we had, and they were special because, it's hard for a senior, going into your senior year, having a first year coach and having another coach for 3 years, and then having a new one. You got to buy into this whole new thing. It's not easy to do. And it's easier to say, I'm just going to do my own thing. None of those kids did that. And, every single one of those kids believed that what we're doing is going to be successful. And so those kids really laid down the foundation for, to me, where we're going as a program.
And speaking of laying the foundation, you mentioned the seniors from your 1-9 season that kind of helped what could potentially be a nice run for Foreign. Was there a specific game in your first year as a coach, or maybe it was the second year where you felt like, okay, I think now we're going to start getting this train moving? It could be in a win or it could be in a loss. Cause, the amount of coaches I've talked to, I've had some tell me that they noticed something in a loss. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Like that's seeing it from another perspective. Usually you see things
Yeah,
in a win.
yeah. Well, to me, and this, I think this is sort of the hand guy coming out in me. Um, I want to play. I want to play the best, and I tell our AD Anthony Vitale all the time, and I love Ant. He's an awesome guy and a great supporter of us and what we're doing. And maybe I'll get some backlash for this, but I'll never complain about our schedule and who we're playing. To me, what made Hand special when I was playing there, and like I said, we'd be playing against West Haven, some of the top teams in the state, Hamden, West Haven at the time, Cheshire. We wanted to challenge ourselves against the best teams and gauge ourselves against those best teams. Because to me, when you make the playoffs, you're playing those teams anyways.
Agreed.
And so
Yeah.
if you want to be a good football team, you got to play the best. And so for me, the game that really spoke to me this year was this year, and it was against Hill House, who is a very good program in their own right. And um, we ended up losing the game defensively. We had a tough second half, but to start, we went up 24. I believe it was 24-0 on them, and and I could see it in our kids' eyes, like this is working. Like this is what we're doing is we could do this against good teams, and Hill House, they're a good football program and they were a good team. So to me, that was I think an eye-opening experience for us to see that. It didn't end the way we wanted, but you got the taste of it. And to me, I'd rather battle a heck of a football team and come out with and play them tough and come out proud of my kids than beat a team 52-0. I mean, to me, there's more learned in a tough fought battle. So that was a very hard fought game for our kids, and they wanted it, and Hill House eked it out at the end. But it was really, I think, our signature game so far in my 2 years at Foran.
It's hard to be able to judge a team off of a win that they win 52-0. I mean, in the years I've been broadcasting in the NVL, I mean, no disrespect to the NVL, but I could count on my hand, maybe both my hands, how many games I've broadcasted since I started in 2017, late 2016, 2017, where there was a game close. There was a 2-year period, coach, no lie, where I only called, I think it was 3 or 4 games that did not go into running clock in the second half. And games like that, it's hard to broadcast because the game is already one-sided. But
Yeah,
also, too, the varsity players are not really getting a lot of necessary reps because now when they go up against the Ansonias of the world, the Woodlands, Seymours, that's when they have their test. And by then, we really know, okay, maybe their blowouts really weren't much. But the reason why I bring that up is you play in a very competitive conference in the SEC. No matter what tier you're in, it's still going to be competitive, in my opinion. So, do you think and you mentioned how being in a conference that good prepares you for when you take that jump to the playoffs?
yeah. No, it does. I mean, I think, you go look at tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Um, every single one of those programs have had their years where they've been very good, and the SEC has had a lot of years of being dominant, and having a lot of dominant programs. And um, it is a grind, and oftentimes you are getting beat up, that playing these games because they are battles. But it makes the playoffs that much easier because when you get into them, you're battle tested, and you know there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for working. I mean, I look at, if you look at the NFL, and not that the Patriots weren't battle tested, but they were 18-1 or 18-0 going into the Super Bowl, and the Giants could have rested their players in that last game against the Patriots before the playoffs, and they didn't. They wanted to get battle tested, and so I think that did a lot for them in the playoffs. And then they got to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and they weren't afraid of them. They were ready to go. And I think it's the same thing in the regular season in the SEC. You're going to have weekend and weekend battles, and it's only if you're that good of a team, it's only going to prepare you for the playoffs. Back.
Who's your football team? NFL team?
I'm a Giant fan.
Oh, I'm a Cowboys fan.
Are you a Cowboys fan? Yeah.
Yeah, a little. It's been rough. Hearing about the Dak Prescott thing for what feels like a year and a half, getting tiring now.
You wonder how much longer the negotiations are gonna go before they're like, all right, we got to move on.
Yeah, right. It's been rough. Who's your college team? Do you have one?
I don't. I try to follow guys who from Connecticut high school players who go on and play. So like, I'll watch Iowa every weekend to watch Nico Regini. I worked with his father-in-law, and so right now I'm an Iowa guy. But if another player goes somewhere else, I'll follow them as well.
That's good though, to be able to kind of follow the talent that goes from Connecticut, because there is a lot in that, and you also have talent on your team, coach. Just talk to me about a couple players that you really feel like have a big chance to take that next step going into the 2020 season.
Sure, I'll start with Jack Dowd. Jack is our receiver for us, and we last year kind of came out of nowhere. And I've coached a few kids like this. Matt Walsh being one of hand. I mean, I coached him his freshman year, but he was I call him self-made men, where they work their butts off to get to where they want to be, to achieve their goal. And Jack was no different. He was a kid who every single day was in the weight room. Every single day was down at the field throwing the football. Every single day was on huddle, trying to get better. And this year, he had his breakout year and made a lot of big plays for us. We had him in the slot. We had him out wide against Guilford this past year. We had a 2-minute drive to win the game. He came up with a few big catches, and it got to the point to where Will was our senior and our captain and a great receiver in his own right, but Jack became that go-to guy towards the end of the year. And I know he's looking to carry that into next year. With COVID and everything being shut down, he's found creative ways to get better and to improve on his craft. And he's a kid who's looking to play at the next level as well. So I think Jack is going to have a tremendous year for us this year. And he's a great leader because he leads by example, and he's bought into the things that we as coaches preach. So he's a very special talent and a good kid, great kid. Ben Geyer is going to be the new quarterback this year. Andrew Janik is going to Stonehill, and Ben is going to be replacing him, and they probably couldn't be more different. Andrew was a tall pocket passer. He had wheels, but he'd rather sit in the pocket and make some throws. Mm. Ben is about as tough and physical kid as there is, and really for us, he could be our inside linebacker. I mean, he could be our inside linebacker and our starting quarterback this year. And that's a battle I have to have with our D coordinator every day, because he'd love to have him on that side. It's just, it's risky for me. So, but Ben can run it, but he can also sling it, and he knows our offense. He's been here for 3 years, all 3 years with me, so he knows what the expectations are. I know it's hard for a quarterback to come in year one and produce, because it just takes some time. Quarterback's at one position where it really takes time. You really got to be there and see it. But he's been with us for 3 years, and he has sat behind Andrew patiently, and he's watched Andrew, and he, like a sponge, he's soaked it up. So I really think Ben is going to add a different dimension to our offense, and he's going to be very productive in his own right, definitely. Another guy for us offensively, Joey Capello, is our running back, and he had some breakout games last year. He's a small kind of scat back type kid, but he's shifty, very shifty, but he's tough. And he's made some plays this year that kind of make you do a double take. He's going to be another kid that we rely on offensively and defensively. He'll be a free safety for us. And he's another kid he's a great kid. He's great in the classroom, and he's a great leader, and somebody we're proud to have as a senior for us coming into this year. And then you get to the big boys, the O-line and D-line, and We have a kid, Juanito Briones, who he's a worker. He's not big. He's not the biggest kid. He's not the strongest kid, but he's probably the toughest kid. And in football, that means a lot. And he's a kid who, if he has it his way, he's not coming off the football field. We're gonna have to try to get him spells, but he does a lot for us. And really, he's got the mental part of the game down, which to me is an underrated skill for an offensive lineman. People talk about the physical skills you need to have, but for me, if you're thinking about what it is you need to do, you're not doing it effectively because it's not second nature to you. And for Juanito, he knows what's expected of him, and and then that helps him play that much faster, which is pretty impressive.
Sounds like
Um,
a talent coach. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to say
no,
something quick. It's, what it sounds like what you have is a lot of pieces that kind of work well. It's just being able to kind of put them in the right position. And it starts off with the quarterback.
yeah, for us in our offense, it does. And like I said, I think Ben, just in talking with him, and yesterday we were able to have our first meetings with the kids. He's raring to go, and he's excited and he's ready to lead. So for me, it's going to be fun working with these kids. I look forward to it every single day. I mean, to me, I have the best job in the world. I think any coach, worth their salt is going to tell you that the best part of their day is, aside from seeing their kids at home, is seeing your kids on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel blessed to be a coach and to be a teacher and to shape, these young kids' lives every single day.
Is there one more player that you want to talk about real quick?
No, I mean, there's I could talk about all. So you made the right decision cutting me off there, because I could honestly, I could go down the list of 70 kids and talk about every single one of them. They're all special to me, and I really believe that they can all be great. So,
when we talk about how the improvements of the season from your first year to your second year, now your third year, what, for the people who may not know about the program, just tell me about kind of what you see as far as what's the vision for the 2020 season? Where do you see Foran?
Well, I think no matter what, the theme for this year, and I talked to kids last night, we're going to compete. On any given Friday night, when you're in Milford or wherever we're playing, you're going to see a team that's on the field that's going to be competitive, that's going to believe that they can win, and that's going to give it their all. And that's on the field. But a program is much more than just that. And so we certainly want to do the right things in the classroom. You're going to see a team of kids that believe that academics come first. You're going to see a group of kids that believe in their community, love their community, and want to do right by their community. And so to me, it's a program is built like that. It's not just about football. It's everything. I mean, it's everything it's community. And on Friday nights, it's the band being there, it's the cheerleaders, it's the football team. To me, having it become, having Milford become this big party on Friday nights at Vito DeVito Complex is kind of the goal. It's what we want, and we want people to come out and be proud of our kids.
Coach, I think they will. The improvements are there, even if the record does not say that. I think if you really dive in and you look at the players, you look at the records, you look at who you beaten, who you played, the scores and everything, it's getting there. It may not be as quick as a lot of people want, but it's getting to that point. And I feel like this year is going to be the year that Foran pops. I truly believe that. The evidence is right here.
Well, yeah, thank you, and I appreciate it. And I know our kids hope that that's the case as well. I know they're working their butts off to try to get it there.
Coach, you've just about run out of time, but you're always welcome to come back on. And hey, when Foran pops, not if, but when they pop, I expect you to come back on.
Coach, anytime. I appreciate the time and everything you do. Thank you.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.